ultimate victory for me.
I think we're pushing up against our time limit for the debate, so just one last question, which the way this debate has gone, I don't know if this will be a quick one or a back and forth, but I think the most heated part was when we were talking about consequences of same-sex marriage. It is legal in several states now, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Iowa, some other states. Can you speak anecdotally about whether those issues that you brought up, whether those have been issues in Massachusetts and the other states?
We are already beginning to see them unfold legally. And I would say they're in an environment right now since, I mean, I don't expect it to, it took 20 years from Loving v. Virginia to your tax exempt status is at risk. It doesn't happen overnight. But we've already seen, Catholic Charities put out of the adoption business in Boston, the nation's oldest adoption agency. And when it went to the state and said, please give us a narrow exemption, we understand gay people and gay couples can adopt. We just want to run one Christian adoption agency. And the state said no. And why did they say no? They said, well, we wouldn't do this for you if you refuse to place children with interracial couples, so we're not going to do it for you either. Saw the same situation happen in D.C. Once again, the city council refused to pass the kind of substantive protection that would have allowed, and in D.C. it's even really quite more serious, because I'll tell you, there aren't a lot of really good social service providers in the District of Columbia, so it's very sad. We've seen a Methodist group. This is not a church, it's a charity. It had a beachfront pavilion that it allowed anyone to rent for a wedding. But, and it had a tax exempt status administered by the state of New Jersey that was designed to reward property owners who allowed the public access to the beach over their private property. So these Methodists were not trying to keep gay and lesbian people from enjoying the beach, but they were a Methodist group. In their church law, it was not legal to have church-owned property being used for same-sex weddings. And the environment, as soon as they passed the civil union law without adequate religious liberty protections, the Environmental Protection Agency stepped in, stripped them of part of their tax exempt status. There were human rights campaign filed. They got lawyers. The lawyers said, no, there's nothing you can do. There's no religious liberty protection built into that. I find that really disturbing already. And we already know that in Massachusetts, when parents objected, because they have a right to withdraw their children from sex education instruction under the statutes in Massachusetts, and they thought that they could withdraw them from instructions about gay marriage. But no, to me this is obvious. If gay marriage is the law of the land, you're an individual parent. This is what public schools are going to teach insofar as they teach about marriage at all. I also begin to see, and this is fairly minor, but I begin to see, there's not a lot of research being done on this question, but you do begin to see increasing polarization in Massachusetts polls around this question of whether the ideal for a child is a mother and father. And I expect, I don't have it broken down by age, but I expect you're going to find that young people increasingly reject that view. Whether that gets translated or how soon it gets translated into an actual increase, I don't know. I expect it doesn't, the ideas, because what the changes in the ideas we have about marriage and our commitment to shared social norms, it doesn't happen with a light switch, right? It's a process by which the government's new idea of marriage gets spread out. The people who oppose the government's view of marriage or believe in my view of marriage get suppressed or silenced. And I have to say that I've seen a great deal of evidence of that. People really are scared. I don't know if you would recognize this, Senator, from where you stand. I know that gay people, this is not a contest for me. This is fairly mild compared to what gay people went, but you won't know unless I tell you. Right now what's happening is people aren't being persuaded. They're afraid to say what they think about marriage. Some people might say, great, that's a good thing. Racists should be afraid to speak up. I find it extremely disturbing for the future of marriage and, for the good of our civil society.
First, I just want to say a word about inevitability. Maggie raises some historical analogies, which I think are reasonable and arguable, but I would just point out something else. Civil rights, I think, is a little bit different. The march towards full equality does seem to go forward. Now, if you were to take a month-to-month look at the chart on equality, it would probably bounce around. But if you pulled back and took a 10-year look at equality, whether it's same-sex, whether it's gay people or African Americans or Irish or Jews or immigrants or handicapped folks or any other women, any other group of people that has been historically discriminated against, and you pull back to a 10-year vantage point, you'll see the line going like this. And that does seem to be something fundamental in the American character and the American DNA, that equality through fits and starts and battles marches forward. So I think this is a little bit different than any other kind of issue, and I believe that there is an inevitability on that. In terms of you asked about anecdotes and consequences, Scott. Again, there are anecdotes and consequences to every time that we gave a step forward on equality. Again, we're still going through litigation every year about racial integration and racial discrimination. We're still going through litigation. Ruth Bader Ginsburg became famous litigating gender discrimination cases. These don't go away. They're not going to go away, and they'll happen if they're same-sex couples. People will object. People will fight over school curricula. The Texas battle, which is the latest about that, has nothing to do with gay people. It has a lot to do with a whole bunch of other issues. But again, the fact that there are going to be these consequences is not a reason to deny people civil rights. I am open.
Civil right.
I am open, incidentally, to, I know Maggie's not a Pennsylvania resident, but any senator from Pennsylvania who wants to work on stronger religious liberty language, I'm happy to talk to them about that in exchange for support of the bill. Why
wouldn't you do it just because it's the right thing to do?
Well, because I think what I did is the right thing to do. I think what I did is the right thing to do. I put a religious liberty clause, which I think is redundant to the Constitution,
I agree.
in the bill.
It doesn't do anything more than the First Amendment, and it won't protect people from the things we're seeing.
But if I could finish, what I'm saying is, if someone has a better idea, I'm open to hearing it. But I want it to come from someone with a sincere desire to move forward on this issue. And there are other anecdotes as well. Maggie mentioned some anecdotes, and again, I talked about them. And I would just say one more thing, that with these church groups that are upset, again, there will be issues to be litigated and issues to be fought over, but we don't give any church group, the Catholic Church, the Jewish religion, the Episcopal Church, we don't give any church veto power on how other people who do not belong to their church live their lives. And I just want to make that point again. There is also...
That's right.
There was also, Maggie had some anecdotes. I want to share an anecdote or two of my own, which is that there's the anecdotes on the other side. When same-sex marriage a couple weeks ago became legal in Washington, D.C., we saw hundreds of tearful gay couples who had been together for decades, who dreamed of finally getting married, standing for hours and hours in line to finally have the opportunity that the rest of us take for granted. And I think that's an anecdote worth considering when we look at this issue. I would also add this again, and I just want to reiterate because it's come up a couple times, has nothing to do with mom and dad being the ideal. We can argue about that, but to the extent it's the ideal, great. Have a mom and dad. If you can, I'm all for that. I'm a dad. There's mom, I'm for that. What I'm saying is that couples who don't happen to have that, or families who don't happen to have that, like my family, we would like an arrangement that's as stable and secure as possible. And currently, Pennsylvania law offers no structure at all. Maggie says there's not enough evidence in yet. I don't know. I mean, just intuitively, based on everything she's written, I can't believe she doesn't agree that it's not healthy to have no structure for the kids being raised by gay people at all. And so, that can't be good. And I can't believe we don't believe that having two gay parents is better than having one, just in terms of the logistics of it all. So this is not about undermining mom and dad. We're for mom and dad. And finally, Maggie said something about being afraid to speak out. Again, I'm not for that. I invited Maggie because I wanted her to speak out. I want people.
I'm not personally
I know, no,
afraid.
but
I just wanted to tell you that.
But I'm saying that there are a lot of people who want this debate to go, and I'm for people speaking out. But and to the extent that anyone, stops Maggie, I'm against that. But gay people, for generations, have been afraid, as Maggie put it, to speak out. Being gay was called the love that shall not speak its name 500 years ago. Just 40 years ago, we had the Stonewall riots where the police were arresting gay people just for hanging out together in a bar. Up until 5 years ago, it was illegal in a number of states to be gay, until the consensual sodomy laws were struck down by the Supreme Court, 6-3, because there's still 3 who still think we should be prosecuting gay people. So, I don't think anyone should be silenced on any front. And I'm for that. I'm a member of the ACLU, for God's sake. I think everyone should be able to say any crazy thing they want to say. Now,